Ladies, gentlemen, members of the press, I would like to start by thanking you for joining us today and for making time to engage with this vital topic, which sits at the heart of our health, environment, and economic fortunes. We are here today to talk about pesticides and how we use them, how we control them, and our current legislative agenda for pesticides control. As it is now, Kenya is not a heavy user of pesticides. Yet our usage has grown sharply in the last 2 years. The arrival of compulsory education, you know most of the Jubilee agenda, every student is going to school, and you know the sources of our labor. Arrival of compulsory education has left many farmers short of workers for hand weeding. Hand weeding is very laborious. It costs a lot of money, pain to children and women, which has driven an increase in the use of herbicides. Herbicides are used to control weeds, so they replace hand weeding, technology that now transiting children to school. But the main cause of the growth has been an inversion. This is insecticide growth. You will see that trend. In 2010, by the fall armyworm, most of you have been reporting on this pest, fall armyworm, which in its first year in Kenya, without any pesticide regime to curb it, destroyed over 70% of our maize. Our nation lost 70% of its staple food crop and not face food security challenges. It's impossible. If you lose 70%, then you're going to have food challenges. But our agriculture is about more than our food security. It also provides our livelihood. 70% of Kenyans are employed in agriculture. It supports them to earn a living. It also provides jobs, and also a contributor directly of GDP. It's showing the significance of agriculture. Thus, as the devastating follow-on ate away our maize in 2017, it ate up our 2 billion shillings in revenue. In fact, scientists have looked globally at the difference pesticides make to agricultural production in the world, including animal health. So we are seated together here with my colleague here from the vet. We confirm it's not only crops that depend on pesticides to thrive. Also animals do that, and they provide protein for us. And ourselves as well. Remember, we have a lot of malaria issues, mosquito control. We depend on pesticides. In your own houses, you use cockroaches to control it. Overall, the scientists at FAO calculate that pesticides make 40% difference to agricultural production. So without pesticides, we have 40% less food. We have 40% more problems in our households, malaria. We have 40% more cockroaches in your houses. That's the insinuation. However, these pesticides use carries risks, and therefore their usage needs to be responsible. In this, Kenya has one of the most robust pest control products in Africa. Kenya, the Pest Control Products Board, the Veterinary Medicine Directorate, those are the regulators that control all these things. Our law is based on Code of Conduct for Pesticides Management, developed by FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, and the World Health Organization, the WHO, meaning that it's a global system. It's borrowed even from the best regulators in the world. That law has been in place for a period of time, alongside set of pesticides regulation, and it's built on 4 key pillars. The first pillar is health and environmental protection derived from the best pesticides control system in the world. Thus, no producer can first register any agrochemical product in Kenya. It must have been approved for use by one of the world's leading pesticide regimes, such as US through Environmental Protection Agency, EFSA, that is the European Food Safety Authority, and Australian regulatory bodies. In other words, when you see a product registered here, it must have been registered for similar use in those various jurisdictions I'm talked about. These regimes require extensive health and environmental testings to approve a pesticide. So there are quite a lot of studies that are generated and risk evaluation is done. So setting up a requirement that a pesticide has to have been approved in the US or similar puts a first level of defense for Kenyans, for Kenya as a country and Kenyans as with its own people. Our protection becomes as good as best in the world. So that's what we pride ourselves for. We have the best regulatory systems, and we are accessing technologies that even the best nations, the first world countries, are accessing. Our second pillar in protecting health and the environment is the local testing for pesticide residue.
Obviously, pesticide is a very integral part of our farming effort as a country, especially as we talk about commercialized agriculture and our increasing need to feed the nation. We have to produce more food. And therefore, we look at pesticides as part of our reliance on science to keep us ahead of the curve. And I know a lot of cases where farming would be impossible without the use of pesticides. And therefore, from our corner as cereal growers, we look at this debate as very useful, but then needs to be guided properly, because there are farmers. If you're talking about a farmer who is doing, say, 5,000 acres of wheat or maize, they can't run away from pesticides. And therefore, what we need to be focused on is responsible or safe use of pesticides, and continuously rely on the regulators, the government regulators, to guide us on what is safe and what is of the correct efficacy. And therefore, we want to keep our focus on that. But also very important, we want to see the use of pesticides as of great importance to the environment, because by, for instance, using a single example I can give of, say, glyphosate, it helps you to avoid excessive use of land preparation operations. Therefore, you're using less diesel. You have less carbon footprint. You're maintaining the soil better, because then you turn it less. And therefore, we feel like we're in the right place. And I would want to stop at that point for now.
The agrochemicals produce and distribute. As growers, we cannot be able today to work and produce any products without pesticides, because pesticides help us to ensure that we increase our production up to 40%. And we're also glad that agriculture was devolved. And the fact is that there are challenges between the national government and the county governments in terms of how we are using the extension, how the extension services are being provided. It is there for a time, and we are happy that the regulation is going through a review. And this is bringing together the national government and the county governments on the same table in terms of the review, so that we can enhance the extension services and ensure that those services can reach to every grower on time. What we are advocating is a responsible use of pesticides. And I like using examples. If today we have gone to a pharmacy and you have been told to use a specific drug, two tablets in the morning and 2 tablets in the evening, and you're told this dose takes 5 days, we will have to stick by that. We will not take the 10 tablets in 1 day because the dose is supposed to be for 5 days. You will have to follow instructions. So what we are looking at here is how we can educate up to the lowest level of that grower to be able to use pesticides responsibly and be able to stick by the label and ensure that every aspect of those pesticides are being followed to ensure that this happens and the safety, and that we can increase our production. It also explains why government is now reviewing the pesticide bill, the pesticide regulation. There are 7 pesticide regulations that are coming to just ensure that where there are gaps, they are filled, and where we think we need to harmonize globally and ensure that this becomes a robust system that will help us to be able to also deal with all stakeholders within the institution. Then remember, we have climate change. Remember that we have a population that's ever growing, and we have land that doesn't increase. So we need to increase production production in a unit area. And the use of pesticide then has to be used responsibly on all farm inputs well, so that we can continue increasing production. So we're here basically to let you know that it is critical that we emphasize on responsible use, we emphasize on using protective clothing, we emphasize on proper disposal of pesticides containers, we emphasize on proper use of soils, even when we are doing nutrition, so that we go science-based, and where possible, let's ensure that our growers get their soil analyzed, get their water analyzed, and be able to then sort the scientific and the extension services to ensure that they have the right information. Lastly, is to let you know that the regulation and the business for fresh produce and agriculture is not done in isolation. We are working together. We are all partners. And I know that groups will stand in and say whatever they will say, but there's this need for us to consult and ensure that we increase knowledge and distribute the right knowledge to the people that we deal with. And for this reason, therefore, I want to let you know and re-emphasize my statement that we are not out to ban pesticide in this country. We are out to advocate a responsible use of pesticide in this country to ensure that our production that is taking place in the tropics can be sustainable. Thank you.
Go ahead. Input Supplier Association of Kenya, VISAC. Now, pesticides are also used on animals, commonly referred to as acaricides. The use of acaricides on animals is key so that to knock down the ticks. Safe use of acaricides is also very important. Now, you know, ticks are responsible to transmit various animal diseases. So the economic loss that will be encountered if you don't use acaricides on animals is heavy, because ticks transmit various diseases like East Coast fever, and the cost of treating such diseases is very expensive compared to use of acaricides. For example, a dose of East Coast fever will cost you about 5,000 shillings. And yet, when you are using a pest control product, a bottle may cost you about 200 shillings. So it is important that pest control products are responsibly used, and we are also urging our members, and at the moment we are also undertaking training as part of the key responsibility as an association. We have not only left it to the end users. As an association, we are also taking training of our users of pesticides so that they'll be able to know how they are used responsibly and well. And in overall, as it was stated earlier, is that we are talking about food security. Food security in this country is very important. The two things that are linked together is food security and food safety. They align together. Food security, we are using pesticides so that we have got high production, control use of pesticides so that we have high production, we do not have losses. But at the same time, when we are talking about food safety, we have to ensure that the food that is coming on your table is also safe. That's why we are advocating for responsible use, that it should be used responsibly so that at the end of the day, it does not become a negative, so that the food that will come on your table, if crops have been sprayed, if animals have been sprayed, the food that will come on your table is also safe for your health and for your use. Thank you.